Welcome everybody, it's great to have you here today as we look at our Enterprise Architect Trerado series, and once again we're going to look at a look at the stakeholders within our Enterprise Architect Trerado repository. We're going to look what it looks like in Collaborator, and then we're going to rebuild or reconstruct that diagram for stakeholders in Enterprise Architect Trerado Designer and see how this all comes together. My name's Scott Hebbard. I'm joined today by Stephen McGuire that's going to step us through this process of recreating our stakeholder diagram in Designer. So welcome, Stephen. How are you today?
Very well, thank you, Scott, and thank you for the introduction. Yeah, let's make a start. As always, we start on our home screen, the Enterprise Architect Trerado home screen. Two tools that you've talked about, Scott, Designer and Collaborator. So there is some overlap in the users, but essentially the people that are using Designer are creating models, massaging models, refactoring them, importing content, and the people that are using Collaborator are essentially viewing or visualizing that content. There could be people that are using both Designer and Collaborator, of course, and in Collaborator you can still contribute to the model by changing text and property values, and we'll see that as we go along. So let's get started, Scott. I'm going to start with Collaborator, so I can click on this button here. I happen to have it open in a tab already, so I'll go to that. And now I also have Designer open in a separate tab, and we'll look at that in just a minute. So we'll click on this one. We open up into our Archisurance dashboard, our home dashboard. As always, Scott, a user can have any number of dashboards, and a user can be part of any number of groups, and the groups can themselves have dashboards. So here we are, we're looking at this fictitious Archisurance company, and it went through a merger recently. You can see the details here of that merger in this central diagram here. What we're going to look at here is that we have this, what's called a card, so a kind of a very, like a little snapshot of information, and this one's called Stakeholder Concerns, Stakeholders Concerned with Risk. The stakeholders whose primary concern is with risk. So it's two stakeholders at the moment, Scott, and this is a fictitious model. Obviously, in a larger model, you might have many more stakeholders than this.
Yeah.
So how did that information get there? Like, where is it coming from, and how do we create it in the beginning? So what we're going to do is flick over now to Designer, and as I said, I've got that open in another tab, and here we are in Designer. And now this is our kind of our dashboard, let's not call it dashboard, it's our home navigation screen, really, but it acts like a dashboard inside Designer. And these little cells here allow us to move around the model. So if I click on this one here, it gives me a preview of what is underneath that navigation cell if I was to click through on it. So I can click through on those. What I'm going to be looking for now is something to do with our stakeholders. So I know my ArchiMate, and in the preliminary phase, let's have a look at that and see what kind of things we've got there. We go down to another level there, Scott, where we've got another set of diagrams there. So let's have a look there, and let's click through on that one. And we've got another set of diagrams, stakeholders with their descriptions there, Scott. So let's have a look at that and click through. And there it is. It's a fairly bland looking diagram, and that's the case sometimes. It's not an important diagram for visualization. It was more just that someone used it to construct it. But we notice that we've got our our stakeholders and their descriptions. Now, there are other diagrams in here to do with stakeholders that are a little bit more interesting, and I've just scrolled too far there. So what have we got here? Stakeholders with descriptions, stakeholders and their concerns. So let's again have a little preview of that. Go, okay, yeah. That's their concerns, and so let's have a look at that. And we've got our stakeholders, and looking over here, Scott, we've got drivers. So if you know your ArchiMate motivation aspect, then you'll know that these drivers, are an important part of that first preliminary phase to define what the drivers are. Let's move out of that now, and let's see if we can find these stakeholders. So we went into our stakeholders with their descriptions. Let's go there, and again, let's click on one of these and say, look, whereabouts is this? We have been talking about the automobile repair shop. So let's click on that one. This is the context element. Over to the project browser here, and I can click on this locate button here, find the context item, the diagram. So there's it immediately takes me there. I can look through this tree view, Scott, and you know, and find the things, but if I'm not very familiar with the model, then it may be difficult for me to find them. And the navigation cell here, or looking at it from this particular element as well, enables us to find it quickly. So here are the stakeholders, and let's just have a look at these stakeholders. I'm going to put, you see that they've got notes there. And the other thing that's going on over here, Scott, is that we have what's called a profile defined. And this is something which is an important thing for organizations that are starting to model in Designer, is the concept of a meta model. So the ArchiMate language, or TOGAF and other frameworks come with some standard elements and some standard ways of doing things, but it's almost essential for each organization to create a meta model that's going to contain information, properties of particular elements that they can assign values to. So if we look over here, we've got general properties here. So we've got the name, the type, the stereotype, the alias, so an alternative name there, some keywords, the status, and I can put the status in there and say, look, this is this representation of the stakeholder has been approved. But underneath that, we've got other information. So we've got the role type, we've got the type here as well, which is a slightly different version. That we've got the primary concern, which is cost. But you see here, we've got a drop down: risk, growth, compliance. And if you think
I think that reminds me of what we saw on the card. There was a primary concern being risk. So
exactly, Scott. And so who's going to be thinking about risk? Well, I think the bank, actually that's their secondary concern. But who's very involved in looking at risk? Or we can just flick through these and see businesses under 5,000 employees are concerned with risk. So that was one of them. And we've got all these other entities here, these other stakeholders whose primary concerns and secondary concerns have been set. So let's just do this from scratch, Scott. What I'm going to do is let's delete all of these stakeholders and the diagrams as well, and we'll do this from scratch so people can see how this is being constructed. So I'm going to right mouse click on there and say delete. Now, don't do this at home if you've got if you've already got some models set up, unless you're very sure that you want to get rid of this content. I'm doing it because I want to show you how to do it from scratch. But when you delete it, it's actually gone from the repository. So I'll select that, and actually I might. Yeah, I'll select all of those, delete that, and yes to all. It's going through now and deleting everything. I think I'm going to get rid of my internal stakeholders as well. I think I had some internal ones there as well, so I'll remove those ones as well. Yes to that as well. So, Scott, now we're going to create this thing from scratch. So I'm going to get back to my home there, and what I'm going to do is create a new diagram. Now I'm going to bring the toolbox out, and what I've got is, I talked about a profile a minute ago, and what I want to show you is that this profile is something that I've called the complete architecture. So we've got that complete architecture there, and let's just delete that, remove that one for a minute, and let's create a new diagram in here. So we've got our diagrams, and it's a motivation diagram. So if you know your ArchiMate again, motivation is, it sort of behaves like a layer, but it's actually theoretically an aspect. And so I'm going to just call it stakeholders there. I'm going to create that diagram, and there's my stakeholder diagram. Now on the toolbox now has changed to the elements that are part of this motivation aspect. And so I can simply just drag those onto the diagram, and let's put on our first one, which is kind of the high, a high-level stakeholder in our world, is drag that one on, and we'll call it the board.
Yep.
So that's obviously an important one. If you've watched any of my videos before, I'm always keen to put in some notes into the model. So I'll do that. I'm just going to move that window up a little bit so I can just drag those windows to my own liking. And
those help tell a story, don't they?
Yeah, well, that's important, Scott. And interesting you bring that up, because modeling is really about creating a narrative. You're really, like you said, creating a story, creating a narrative that's going to make people understand what the world that you're wanting them to view. So we want our stakeholders to be in our model because they're key to the story that we're telling about our Archisurance and this sort of new mergers that it's been through and its digital transformation. So there I've got the board there. I've got that one done. We talked about this automobile, repair shop as well. So let's put that in. I'm going to do it a slightly different way this time, Scott. I'm going to drag it from the toolbox onto the package. So I don't need to put it in diagram, just to show you that I could actually just create that there. I'm hitting the F2 key there, and I'm going to call it the automobile repair shops. And it's plural there because I'm wanting to represent a number of different repair shops. So again, I can go and put in some notes in here. So again, with that element selected in the browser there, I'm going to put in some notes. So the network of vehicle service centers. So there's not too much more to this, Scott, other than to go through now and create some more of these. And what I'm going to do is I'll just take some time, a minute or so, just to finish this diagram off, and then we'll come back and look at setting some of the properties on these elements.
So I can see we've now finished this diagram, and you've created all of the different stakeholders for our Archisurance model. So perhaps you can tell us how these stakeholders work and how they're reflected in the card that we looked from the card widget previously.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. Good to be back. We have done a little bit of work on this now, and you can see now that we have our diagram finished, and we've got our elements in there. What I'm going to do is just create another stakeholder to show you again what is going on. I'll drag that onto the diagram, and let's not worry about, well, let's call this Chief Security Officer.
Yeah.
So I want to show you what it looks like when we come into this. So actually, we're not going to do that one. Actually, I will remove that one, actually, Scott, and I'll just come back to these ones here. So what we've got is these stakeholders now, and I was going to show you that, but I think I'll just change mine and just show you these finished ones that we've got. So we've got the board, the automobile repair shop, and if you keep an eye over here at this properties window as we move through the different stakeholders, you'll see whose primary concern is going to be risk. And if we do a sort of drop down, the meta model has got a predefined list of these things and saying that cost, risk, growth, compliance, experience, innovation, and unspecified. So, someone might not know what it is, and they'll come in by default as unspecified. So, that's an important thing. So let's just flick through these and see as we move forward. We'll see which ones are concerned with risk. So repair shops with cost again, risk. So the intermediary is risk.
Yep.
The customer is focused with cost. That makes sense. Advertising outlets, again, with cost. Business under 500 employees, risk. What about the car rental companies? They've got growth. Let's flick theirs around and say, look, their primary concern is actually going to be risk. And let's put their secondary concern as cost. So maybe they've had a change of management and they've changed you know, what they're concerned with. So what's the role type? Well, again, we can change the thing. We'll say, look, they're operational there. They type they're a supplier. So we're just filling out that metadata for each of those elements. So now we've got three of these stakeholders that are concerned with risk. Let's go back and have a look at our dashboard. This one is still showing 2, but we've changed that data. So let's go now and update this and refresh this. And now you can see it's gone to 3. Yeah. Now, if someone opened the dashboard up, you know, from scratch, it would just display 3. The fact that we just had it open, we just needed to, you know, refresh the dashboard, and we could have just, you know, done that with any of the widgets on there. So we're not displaying any of the stakeholders inside here, Scott. So we're not going to look at those, but we could have like a list of stakeholders in here as well, and we could then, you know, change that thing. So let's just do something like that now. Let's just add a diagram widget just to show, you know, how we can do that all from the Collaborator tool. So I'm just going to go in here and say edit, and if familiar with this before, I'm going to add another widget, and I'm going to say add new widget, not from the library, and it's going to be, I'm going to do it as a diagram. So I'll just choose a chart there and say add new widget there, and we're not going to use any reports. We haven't got any of those defined. Here we said we're going to do a chart, but actually let's just backpedal from that and let's just do a diagram actually. So I just clicked on the wrong thing there, I think. But let's create a new diagram. So it's not a chart widget at all. It's a diagram widget.
Diagram widget.
Select that one. And so now I can move through there. I was going to put on, you know, a list of them as well, but I think we'll just do this one here. And we've got our stakeholders there. And we do have things with descriptions as well, but let's just do this stakeholder one that we're familiar with. And we'll just select that, and we'll get our stakeholder diagram there. Let's make it a little bit bigger. Let's make it a little bit bigger there, and we can easily launch that. We'll save that. We'll give it a title. So list of stakeholders, and let's save that widget now, and let's move down in our dashboard and see what we've got there. So now let's view this diagram again, and we'll click on one of these guys here. And now let's, you know, let's look at what we've got. And we've got, you can see we've got the same information, the same properties over here in Collaborator that we had. And so, you know, what is the primary concern? Well, it's cost. So let's look at another one and say, you know, the banks, let's say they're interested in cost. Let's go, no, let's make their secondary concern cost, not their role type, their secondary concern, which is further down. So this is in a slightly different order. Let's say that's cost, and this one is going to be risk. So let's save that. Now, let's, you can see that that's saved successfully. Let's go back to our dashboard now and look at this. Now you can see that
it's 4.
When we first started the video, it was 2. Then we updated it through Designer to make it 3. And now we've made that change in Collaborator and it's gone up to 4. So the take-home message, Scott, is that this is all dynamic. It's all real time. This stuff is you know, being updated automatically as people are looking at it. Now, we've got organizations that have literally got hundreds of people using Collaborator, and they might have a smaller number of people, maybe, you know, 50 people or 10 or 20 or 30 people using Designer, and they're all interacting together. So it's the one repository, and that's where the magic is happening, that, you know, you can change it either in Collaborator or Designer, and both views will be updated. So if we went back to Designer now and, you know, we looked at that one there and we went, okay, it was the banks that were there. Let's have a look at it now. And the primary concern, that hasn't been updated. So let's just rejig this one. Again, we need to refresh that. So let's just do a reload current package there. And let's go back into our bank there. And you can see that the primary concern is risk. So as someone comes into the model, then that will be automatically refreshed. But if we've got something open, we just need to, do a refresh on that content, and it's there. So look, that's it for stakeholders, Scott. Very important topic. Obviously, stakeholders are incredibly important in any project that you're working on, and I encourage people to create models of these stakeholders.
Thanks very much, Stephen. It's been good to see us create stakeholders from scratch and to see how some of those risks are displayed in the card. And I think it's amazing that the minute you update something, then you have that information in your dashboard visible.
Yeah.
It's really quite powerful. Yes. So to our audience, you can look at our previous videos where we've shown you how to create all of the various widgets in the dashboard in Collaborator. And there are a number of videos on the Sparx Systems YouTube channel that show you how to use Enterprise Architect Trerado. So we encourage you to look there. If you have more questions and you'd like to reach out to Stephen, you can get his contact details in the video description below. And finally, thank you, Stephen, for showing us how to build stakeholders in Designer and how to view them in Collaborator. It's been great to see how easy it is. Thank you.
Always a pleasure, Scott.